What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and in this video we are going to be diving into a new way to play Yugi-Kaiba. Or I guess not technically new, as people have been playing this way for quite some time, but it's new in the competitive sense, as this is actually a way to play Yugi-Kaiba that is currently going through a tournament right now. This past weekend, the Vampire Tournament on the YGO from Zero Discord server started, and it's been very exciting so far, very fun to play in. But another tournament started on the Yugi-Kaiba Land Discord, and I'll leave links to both these Discords in the description down below if you want to check out either of them. And I highly encourage you to do so if you want to play games in this format or any of the other formats that I featured on the channel. But the tournament on Yugi-Kaiba Land was sort of this Yugi-Kaiba detox, and the idea behind that is that modern Yugi-Kaiba has evolved into a bit of a different format than what it once was. You know, back in the day, you'd have a lot more sort of vanilla beat decks, and you'd have things like, Trap Master or D-Spell seeing a lot of play as well. Whereas nowadays, the format has sort of evolved into like Soul Control, it's evolved into Ultimate Offering Stall. So the decks in it are very, very different than what they once were. And also a lot of people find some of those matchups kind of frustrating, especially Stall, as a lot of people really don't like that deck. So the idea behind Yugi-Kaiba Detox is you have a tournament where everyone's just playing this same deck, this basic deck that is more in line to how people thought the best deck of the format would look like, back at the start of exploring this format. And so it's just getting some like more classic Yugi-Kaiba gameplay. And I think that the tournament's been really, really fun so far. I've played a variety of games in this format, both in the tournament and outside of it, and I've had a blast. So I wanted to quickly make a video on this, just go over what this matchup looks like and why I do think it is very, very skill intensive and very, very fun if you're into this sort of gameplay. So before diving into the games, let's just talk about the deck, as the deck is extremely important. Now, Yugi-Kaiba is often known as a chess-like format because there is just so much information that you know about your opponent's deck, because most decks do play like a common core of certain cards. So you're kind of always watching your opponent, seeing like what they've gone through, calculating what they've got left in the deck, and that can make for some very, very fun game states and sort of gameplay decisions. This deck, takes that and it ramps it up to 11. Because you know exactly what your opponent's on, because you know that they've got the same deck as you. So to start with, we've got 6 flip monsters, triple Man-Eater Bug, and triple Trap Master. Trap Master is a card that not a lot of people play in the modern form of the game, and so having this in here adds another layer of difficulty and sort of mind games, as you really do need to be worrying a lot more about your back row, and also worrying about what your opponent's back row is, and trying to snipe the best Trap Master pop there. For the monsters that are getting a bit more aggressive, we've got triple Battle Ox, triple Neo, triple Login, pretty standard to regular Yugi-Kaiba. We've also got triple Giant Soldier of Stone, again, pretty standard to regular Yugi-Kaiba. These are, the core monster lineup that you'll see in pretty much every deck, except for maybe Stall. And this deck is also playing Double Summon Skull, which you likely will see in a lot of decks, but not every deck plays these. And often if, you are playing Summon Skulls, you're also probably playing Soul Exchange, making it a Soul Control list. This version of the deck is not playing Soul Control, so no Soul Exchanges in sight. There is a Change of Heart, though, to pair with these, so that is a very good thing to keep in mind when you've got a Summon Skull in hand. For the other spells, we got Dark Hole, we got Triple Fisher, Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, Raigeki, Double Swords Within Light. That's pretty much standard. You'll see that in pretty much every deck in the format, but also this deck is playing a D-Spell, so you can't just, set a bunch of spells in the back row to bait out Trap Master pops, because D-Spell could come down and hit those as well. For the trap lineup, of course, it's triple Reinforcements, triple Trap Hole, triple Baboku, the classic trap lineup for Yugi-Kaiba. And now that you know the deck list, and once you really, really internalize like what is left in the deck and, what your opponent has left in their deck, using this deck list, it can make for some really, really fun gameplay. So let's dive into some games that I got with this format and see why it's so fun. Okay, we've got some games against Ellie Tin Can here, who is an expert on Yugi-Kaiba format. Always a pleasure to feature games with them on the channel. And so we're going to go into the rock, paper, scissors here. We do lose that, which is a bit unfortunate. But in Yugi-Kaiba, it's not really as bad to go second as it is in future formats. Like, there are no hand rips, no super degenerate things that you can do on the first turn. It does give you like an extra card, but I mean, it's ultimately fine. It kind of equalizes out over the course of the game if you play well. Opponent's going to start out with a Lodge and an attack and 2 back row here that we don't know. and they're going to pass it back to us. Now, we don't really have a decent way to deal with Lodge In. We do draw Fisher, so we kind of had two options here. We can bring out a beater of our own, activate Fisher on their Lodge In and beat in for some damage. We don't really have any traps to protect that, though, so that might be a little bit risky. We could also potentially set a Trap Master and set some spell back rows as some bluffs. Try and snipe one of their back rows, so that way when we do make an aggressive push, we can be sure that our monsters will actually stick on field. Now, each of these comes with their own risks. For instance, if our opponent does have like a trap hole or something set, then going for the aggressive option might be kind of rough. But also, if our opponent brings out another monster to pair with the Lodge In, then setting the Trap Master could be a bit too passive and we take too much damage. Now, we do have this Dark Hole in hand, though, to clear their board if they do bring out another monster and beat over the Trap Master. So that might be the best move to do, actually, in hindsight. But I'm just going to go for this Battle Ox here. We're going to try and save the Dark Hole for later when we're in a bit more dire of a situation. We're just going to Fisher their Lodge In, attack in for 17 with the Battle Ox, set a D-Spell and a Dark Hole, pass back to them. Now, the reason we go for the Battle Ox here instead of the Lodge In is I want to leverage the Lodge In for hitting over like a 1700 beater later in the game. So I go for the Battle Ox now. If they've got another Lodge In, they have to bring out that other Lodge In into unknown back row, attack into the Battle Ox here and hit over that way. Then we can set the Trap Master on our next turn, potentially pop one of their back row. If they commit another monster board, then we do have the Dark Hole. So kind of the play I mentioned earlier, and we can go for that. Of course, we could also draw other things as well. They're just going to set one, pass back to us, and we're just going to bring out a Lodge In here, try hitting over their set. It is a Giant Soldier of Stone, so we get a little bit punished for this, as we don't really have a way to deal with that Giant Soldier of Stone. I did it this way in case it was like a bug, but I think honestly what I should have done is I should have just attacked in with Battle Ox, and then main 2, set Trap Master and Manual Bug. It does play a bit risky into like Raigeki or Dark Hole there, but you know, at least that way I'd still have a beater in hand, and if it was something like Stone, I wouldn't be in quite as bad a situation here. Our opponent is going to fire a Monster Reborn, bring back a Lodge In here, and that's a bit rough for us. They can hit over that Battle Ox there, deals 100. And then they're just going to pass back to us. We draw a Giant Soldier of Stone of our own, so a lot of defensive cards in hand here. So we're just going to try crashing into the Lodge In. If they do protect their Lodge In, then that makes our Dark Hole even better. So I feel good about that. They do indeed protect their Lodge In. We're just going to Dark Hole the board there, and we set a Trap Master, pass back to them. We potentially could have saved the Dark Hole. We could have set a Giant Soldier of Stone instead, just to play a bit defensively. If they clear the Giant Soldier with some of the reinforcements, then we can go for Dark Hole after that. But that's potentially opening us up to a lot of damage, and you don't necessarily want to go too far down on damage in this format. So they're just going to set one of their own, set another, pass back to us. We draw reinforcements here. We're just going to pass back to them. No need to set the reinforcements into what might be a Trap Master here. And, you know, we could have potentially committed another monster on board, but I don't necessarily want to play into something like Dark Hole or Raigeki as much. Maybe this was a bit of a mistake, as it does leave us a little bit open to an aggressive push, and they are indeed going to go for an aggressive push. So they're going to flip up that Trap Master, set another, and pass back to us. Okay, it looks like they didn't actually go for a super aggressive move after all. It's actually pretty nice for us here. We're going to flip up this Trap Master, pop one of their back row, although it's a Dark Hole, so that doesn't quite work. Then we're just going to attack into their Trap Master here. Main 2, we are going to think about this a bit, and we're going to choose to, well, we wanted to set the Giant Soldier, but I guess summoning it is also fine. We got Reinforcement and Trap Hole in hand. Kind of unfortunate, but yeah, it's fine. They're going to bring out a Neo here. We could have potentially Trap Hold the Neo, especially because we don't really have much other removal, but we've got the Man-Eater Bug in hand, so I figure, you know, worst case scenario, we just set the Man-Eater Bug to do more removal. We've got a Trap Hole for whatever else they summon. So I feel ultimately fine about saving the Trap Hole there. It might come back to bite us later, though. They're going to attack in for 2150 here, drawing us down to 5550, and now we're kind of on the back foot. Giant Soldier Stone's pretty good. It can act a bit defensively here, block their attack. They're going to attack in with Neo. It's the Giant Soldier. They'll just take the 300, switch that Bug to defense, pass back to us. We draw Lodge In here. We're going to bring out that Lodge In, just try and hit over the Neo, hit over the Bug. This does play a little bit into like Dark Hole, which would be unfortunate. But we've got Trap Hole to protect after that. We know about the Dark Hole, though, so we can just fire the D-Spell on it, and we feel pretty fine. We are going to pass back to them. They're just going to set one, pass back to us. We draw another Reinforcements. Kind of awkward, given that all our back row are traps now, so it kind of plays awkwardly into a Trap Master later on. This is another potential reason why we maybe should have fired the Trap Hole earlier, but nothing we can really do to play around that. Our opponent's going to fire a Fisher on our Lodge and pass back to us. We draw mana your bug, so we just got to set that bug. We could have set the bug last turn as well, and then flipped it on whatever they had set here. I think that actually would have been the better play to do. But I got a little bit greedy. I wanted them to get aggressive, and then we could go for bug later. But now I'm just getting a bit punished because that Trap Master will be able to snipe something, and it is indeed the Trap Master. They're going to snipe a Reinforcements there, attack into our bug. We're just going to pop the Battle Lock. They're going to get in for 500, but it's better to clear the Battle Locks than our bug. We draw a Fisher, which is not the best when they've got a Trap Master on field. We're just going to hold the Fisher in hand. I could have potentially set it as another bluff, but it might have been too obvious a bluff. We want to kind of, hide when we draw a trap that we want to set. So I feel like this is fine. We're just going to pass back to them. Change of Heart is another very good card we draw here. They're going to bring out a Neo here, attack into our set. We're just going to pop the Neo because that is the more threatening card here. They're going to pass back to us. We draw Waboku, which is pretty nice. We're just going to set that. This is kind of awkward in a Trap Master, but if they flip Trap Master, we can chain it. So it's not the worst for us here. They're going to bring out a Giant Soldier, and we're going to think about this, but we are indeed going to trap hold that as we don't have any aggressive pressure. And we don't necessarily want them to get a bunch of monsters on board, especially when we can't necessarily clear the Trap Master easily. We draw a Monster Reborn there as well. And we are going to think about this, and we are just going to go for the Reborn. We don't have the Trap Hole anymore to defend ourselves. We want to get a bit aggressive here since it seems like our opponent doesn't really have much aggressive pressure of their own. We're just going to clear the Trap Master, pass back to them, and they're going to fire a Pot of Greed, draw 2. Maybe get themselves out of the situation. Fire swords, set 1, pass back to us. They know we don't have a D-spell, so they know the swords will stick. And we draw swords of our own. We're just going to set that, pass back to them. No need to fire the swords now, given that they don't have any aggressive pressure. We can save it for later. We draw a Neo. We're just going to pass back to them. No need to commit more to board into something like Uraigeki. They're just going to pass back to us. And this is the last turn on swords. We're just going to set a Reinforcements here, pass back to them. And they are going to fire Change of Heart on our Lodge and attack in for 18. We'll just take that. They can't kill us here, so we can save our Waboku for later. They're going to bring out a Summoned Skull, pass back to us. We draw Trap Master, and we could potentially just Fisher the Summoned Skull, and it looks like that's what we're going to attempt to do. But they Trap Hole our Neo, so it's not necessarily as good to Fisher the Summoned Skull now, as we can't just get immediately aggressive after that. So we make a little bit of a weird play here. We fire the sword, just trying to hold off their Summoned Skull for a bit. And we figure that, if they do clear the sword with D-Spell, we've got Waboku. And I want to hold the Fisher for in case, we get an aggressive push later. But they've got D-Spell for our swords, and they'll attack in for 2,500. I feel like we do have to Waboku this, because if you check their graveyard, they haven't used up any reinforcements. So if they've got 2 reinforcements, they just win the game here. And we just got to fire the Waboku to stay alive. We draw Pot of Greed, which will be nice, potentially get us out of this situation. We draw some good beaters. We're going to summon out a Neo, Fisher away their Summoned Skull, and attack in for 1,700. It's a little bit awkward here. Main 2, we set the Change of Heart. We don't have to worry about a D-Spell now because that is used up. And they're just going to pass back to us, so I feel pretty good about this. We could potentially get more aggressive with this Battle Locks here, summoning that out, getting in for 3,400. But we know that they have only used up 1 Waboku, so they likely have another. They also have not used up Raigeki. And if we play into this, then we lose 2 of our beaters here. We've already gone through a fair amount of our beaters, so we don't necessarily want to play it that riskily. We just want to keep attacking in with the Neo here. And then main 2, we're just going to set a Waboku, pass back to them. We could have potentially set the Trap Master here to snipe one of their back row, get in for 500 more. But I didn't really feel it was necessary. They're going to bring out a Battle Axe here, attack into the Neo. And then they're going to go for reinforcement of the damage step. We've got a reinforcement of our own, but they've got a reinforcement of their own. But we've got another reinforcement of our own, but they've got another reinforcement of their own. Isn't this great? That's like Chain Link 5. Very rare to see in this format, but it can happen. And yeah, we've used up all of their reinforcements though, so that's kind of nice. All of our reinforcements are gone as well though, so it's a little bit awkward in that regard. They're just going to pass back to us. We draw swords, which is pretty good. We're just going to bring out this Battle Axe here and fire a Change of Heart on their Battle Axe just to try and get in for some damage. This can also bait out Waboku, which it did do, but I think we had to go for that just because it was lethal on board. Maybe we could have saved it for later. Maybe this was a bit too aggressive. But we've got a Waboku of our own. We've got a swords here. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Maybe we could have potentially just attacked in our battle auction and theirs and fired Waboku. And then that would basically force them to fire their Waboku. But they could just keep it and use removal on our battle lock. So yeah, I think saving the Woboku was correct here. We're just going to set this swords, pass back to them. We set the swords because if they want to attack into our battle lock, we do have Woboku here. And we might as well save the swords for that. Unfortunately, they bring out a Lodge in here, so Woboku isn't necessarily the best into this. It does keep our battle locks alive, but it doesn't actually trade for anything there. So it's kind of awkward, but I do just let this go through. So yeah, it's pretty rough for us. This is a bad spot for us to be in, and we do have Raigeki left in deck, so that we'll be able to clear up the board a bit here. But yeah, it's just kind of weird. There's nothing we can really do. We're just going to set Trapmaster, fire a swords here, pass back to them. We are just hoping to draw into like a Summon Skull, so we can flip up Trapmaster, pop on their back row, summon out Summon Skull, and hit into one of their monsters. And, you know, we haven't gone through any Summon Skulls yet, and there are 2 in the deck, so that means we have like a 1/6 chance of drawing one. So I feel like the odds here are not that bad. We're just going to set this trap hole, flip up the Trapmaster on their set there, just try and pop that in case it's Woboku, and we can get aggressive next turn. Unfortunately for us, it's just Raigeki, so now we have to kind of play around Raigeki here. And we are going to try and do that this way. We're just going to attack in to the battle locks there, clear that, and then switch the Trapmaster to defense. Now our Fisher can pop the Elijah next turn if they don't have another beater here, but they do indeed have another beater. So we're going to think about this. We are just going to trap hole that, so that way our Fisher is live to get rid of the Lodgin. And we draw another Trapmaster, so we're going to fire a Fisher there, switch the Trapmaster to attack in for 500 here, drop them down to 2,000. We do just set the other Trapmaster here. We want to bait them into firing the Raigeki here, because I figure our attack position Trapmaster isn't really the best in this situation. And so, I mean, even our other Trapmaster isn't even really the best. Like, Trapmaster is not the best card. This is why it got cut from a lot of more optimized lists as the format went on. So I'm just trying to bait out the Raigeki. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I should have just kept the Trapmaster alive here in case I top decked like a Lodgin or Battle Ox or something like that, and they didn't have a monster to follow up with here. They've got a Giant Soldier of Stone. They'll pop our Trapmasters, attack in for 1,300. We do have Woboku here, and they're just going to pass back to us. We draw Summon Skull, so that will indeed be the end of the game. Maybe if we had held the Trapmaster in hand, things would have turned out differently for us here. But I think ultimately it wouldn't have really changed much. This turn we would have set Trapmaster. We would have used Woboku when they attacked into it here, but they probably would have just Raigeki'd it. Because it would have been a set unknown, so they want to just get aggressive with the stone. So I don't think we'd have a monster on field to tribute for Summon Skull here either way. I think we might have just survived another turn, though. We'd be at 150 life points, but neither of the detox decks are playing burn spells. So yeah, I think we might have misplayed the end here. I don't really think there are many draws that could get us out of this situation, especially given that they did have a trap hole set. So yeah, I don't think we were winning this either way, but it's good to keep in mind where we potentially misplayed for future matches. As, you know, it's just good to always be analyzing where you potentially went wrong in a skill-intensive format like this. And I do think that there is a lot of skill involved here. Like, looking at that loss, I do think that you can point to different points in the game where we potentially misplayed, and those misplays did end up costing us at the end of the game. So we are going to be going first here in game 2 because, you know, we lost the first one, so we get to go first. This is kind of an awkward hand. We just have like all monsters basically. So we'll just set our 1 Woboku, pass back to them. Woboku isn't that bad as a set here because even if they Trapmaster it, like chaining Woboku to a Trapmaster is not bad, like usually, unless you attack into it. We're going to draw for turn. We draw a Summon Skull here. We're just going to set the Trapmaster, pass back to them. What we want to do next turn is we want to flip up the Trapmaster, pop on their back row, tribute over it for a Summon Skull, and get aggressive that way. But maybe this is a bit greedy. If they've got Change of Heart, they can take control of the Trapmaster, flip up, pop our Woboku, and that would be pretty bad. But they've got Raigeki here, so that is also pretty bad for us. The Raigeki are board, attack in for 3,100 here. We will just take it. We want to keep our Woboku safe for as long as possible. Especially because we've only got monsters, so we got to play into things like Trap Hole if they've got them. We're just going to summon out this Battle Ox, attack into this Giant Soldier. They've got Woboku. We're just going to pass back to them, and they're going to attack into our Battle Ox. Now, we could Woboku this, and we do think about it, because if we Woboku this, then Battle Ox stays on field. We can summon that Summon Skull next turn, try and hit over the Lodgin. But I figure, like, either way, if they want to attack in with Giant Soldier, we can make the same play that we made before, bring out another beater, try and hit into Giant Soldier, and then have Woboku as backup later. So I figure we can sort of bide our time a little bit. Unfortunately, they switch the stone to defense, so that doesn't quite work out for us, but we do draw this bug, so that will act as removal here. They're going to just attack in to our bug here, and we're going to think about this, and we do indeed go for the Woboku. I think this might have been a misplay, but what I want to do is I want to use the bug to pop the Lodgin, and then I want to tribute out a Summoned Skull to hit over the stone. As none of the cards in hand that we've got deal with the stone, so I want to use it this way. I think this might have been a mistake. I think I might have wanted to save Woboku for later, just popped the Lodgin this turn, summoned out a Battle Ox or Neo, and just sat on that, and tried to ride that for as long as possible. But it's a bit of a risky spot. When you don't have any back row. We draw a Fisher here, and so we're going to mix up our game plan a little bit. We're going to summon out a Battle Ox, Fisher away their Giant Soldier, and just attack in for 1700. This is resilient against Fisher. You know, they've used up Raigeki, so Dark Hole's the only thing that clears both of these. So I feel okay about this. But they do have Reborn, so they will bring back a Lodgin here, and they will be able to clear the board this way. So they get out Lodgin, attack over Battle Ox, and then attack into the bug with the Battle Ox there. So maybe a bit of a mistake not going for Summoned Skull like the original game plan was. We could have also set Fisher as back row bluff if we'd gone for the Summoned Skull. But I think it was fine going for that, as they needed like one or a couple cards to actually clear that board. We're going to bring out Lodgin here, attack into Battle Ox. If they've got reinforcements, they've got reinforcements, but it doesn't look like they do there, or at least they don't want to use it yet. But yeah, they're going to bring out a Giant Soldier, Fisher away our Lodgin, attack in for 3100 here. And we're in pretty bad situation. They're gonna fire a Swords here. We draw a Reborn. That's just kind of awkward. We're gonna Reborn back a Giant Soldier of Stone here, as that's all we can really do. We could potentially have set one of our other monsters here, just sort of play around, like if they've got Fisher, as that would protect us a little bit here. But we kind of want to save our monsters. If they've got Fisher to clear our one wall here, I feel like we're in a really, really bad spot, and we're probably going to lose the game there either way. So I want to at least preserve our monsters. We're going to set a Trapmaster here, pass back to them, as Trapmaster is a monster I'm okay using up. But they've got Dark Hole here, so they likely will just be able to go for a game push. They're going to bring out Lodgin, and that will be the end of the game. So really unfortunate draws here that can potentially happen in this format, as draws are key to getting good stuff. But I do think that if we had played this a little bit differently, given our hand, then maybe we could have changed things. Like maybe the Woboku on the bug was a little bit greedy, since we had all this material for tributes later in our hand. So maybe if we had saved that, things would have turned out differently. Maybe if we had not gone for the Fisher on the stone play, things would have turned out differently. Because, you know, bringing out a Skull, it does play into Trap Hole a little bit, but they didn't have Trap Hole here. But it does play into Trap Hole. But it also uses up a resource on the field that we're not always going to have. So at the end of the game here, Skull was a bit of a brick, whereas, you know, there we had the tools to actually make it work. So I think that maybe going for the Skull would have potentially worked out a little bit better for us. We could have had the Fisher as a back row bluff, could have used it to pop their monsters, etc. So yeah, I think maybe we misplayed this a little bit, but it can be a bit tricky depending on the hands that you get to actually, you know, play perfectly. But this wasn't the only game that I played against Ellie. This was just to sort of whet our appetite. Let's dive into the next game that we've got now. Here we got our second match here against Ellie Tin Can. We're going to dive right in again. And we do lose the rock, paper, scissors again, so we will be going second here. But again, you know, that's not the biggest deal in a format like this. So this is a much better hand than the last one. We actually have back row, although it does play into the Trapmaster a little bit because we don't have any spells to set as bluffs. They're just going to set 2, summon out Lodgin. We're just going to set a Trapmaster, set a Woboku, set a reinforcements. Now, there is an argument here to just setting the reinforcements, because what you can do if you attack into a Trapmaster with your monster is, you know, in damage calculation, you can use reinforcements, buff your own monster, and then Trapmaster's effect will trigger after the damage calculation is done. So they will have to target one of their own back rows, so you get information that way. So I think given we didn't have any bluffs here, maybe it was a bit greedy to set the Woboku. The Woboku probably wouldn't come up until later in the game anyways. So I think maybe we should have just set the reinforcements. But these are things that you sort of learn as you play the format more, and you sort of figure out what you want to play around and what you want to do. So we flip up our Trapmaster, hit a Trap Hole, which is pretty nice, and then they're going to pass back to us. We draw a Fisher, so we can just clear the Lodgin that way. I think maybe we should have set the bug instead of going for the Fisher here, but we've got reinforcements to back up our Neo here, and we can use bug in case they summon out Skull later. But yeah, maybe the Fisher would have been more high value than the bug. Kind of unclear. They're going to bring out a Lodgin here, attack into the Neo. In damage, we are going to fire the reinforcements here. and clear the Lodgin. They're just going to pass back to us. We draw Dark Hole, which is very nice as well. We're just going to hit in for 17. We could commit the Battle Ox to board and get in for 34. They might not have drawn Wuboku yet. But it does play into a mass board clear a bit, and we don't have any other aggressive pressure in hand. So I do think it's better just to sort of play it safe, attack in for 17 each time. And also, we've got this Dark Hole here to clear the board later. But we set the Dark Hole as a bluff. So if they do Trap Hole or Trap Master us later, then they'll probably target the newer back row here. They're just going to attack into Neo with a Neo. We could have Wuboku'd to protect the Neo there, but we've got the Battle Ox in hand to follow it up with, so we can save that for later. We're just going to bring this Battle Ox here, attack in for another 17, and then pass back to them. They are going to fire Change of Heart on our Battle Ox. A little bit scary to see. They're going to attack in for 17 here. And then main 2, they're going to tribute summon out a Summon Skull. Pass back to us. We draw Trap Hole. Turn too late. We're just going to set a bug, set the Trap Hole, pass back to them. They're going to bring out a Battle Ox here, attack in to our bug. We're going to pop the Battle Ox. And the reason we do this is because we got Dark Hole, I guess. But I think maybe it would have been better to pop the Skull so that way we could attack in with Lodgin over the Battle Ox next turn. Bit of a greedy play, I think, on my part. I don't really like that. Yeah, we just go for the Dark Hole 1-for-1 trade there. And yeah, it's kind of rough. We go for Giant Soldier of Stone here instead of Lodgin because we don't want to play in a Trap Hole. And also this is a 2-turn clock. We do have a Trap Hole to protect the Giant Soldier. So I figured this is fine either way. And we want to get them to use up removal and something like this as opposed to the Lodgin in our hand. So they're going to go for Reborn, though, on the Summon Skull, and that does play around our play there. So they will be able to hit over the stone for 1,200, and then they'll pass back to us. We draw a Neo. We're just going to set that, pass back to them, and they're going to summon a Lodge, and we will Trap Hole that, as that is a very high-value monster there. They're going to hit in to our Neo, and that will go through. We could have Wuboku'd there, but I don't really think we need it yet. We draw another Trap Hole. We set that Trap Hole, pass back to them, and they're just going to hit in for 25. So that will indeed go through there. And yeah, we're really suffering, I think, for our greedy bug play earlier. If we had popped the Summon Skull with the bug, they would have had to use Reborn to bring back the Skull. We could have potentially gotten over Battle Ox with the Lodgin. I think it would have been a bit better for us. But yeah, I mean, that shows you really can't afford to make greedy misplays in this format, as you can be majorly punished for them. They're just going to attack in to the bug with the Skull, so that will clear that. They're going to set a monster there, pass back to us. We just bring out a Lodgin. Unfortunately, that will eat the Trap Hole there, and we'll pass back to them. They flip up this Trap Master here. They hit the Wuboku, but honestly, we'd probably use up the Wuboku this turn anyways, given our life point total. They're just going to tribute out a Summon Skull. We will use the Trap Hole on that. We don't have a way to clear that afterwards, and they'll pass back to us. We draw Reinforcements, which isn't the best when you don't have any monsters to pair with it. They're just going to fire a Swords, pass back to us. We draw Giant Soldier of Stone, and we're going to summon that up. That's fine by them. We're going to dispel their Swords and attack in for 13. They do have Wuboku to block that, though, so they will survive another turn here. And they're going to go for Dispel on our back row. It's just a Reinforcements. They're going to set one, set another, pass back to us. We draw Raigeki, and we're just going to fire that Raigeki, clear away the set bug there. And unfortunately, they've got another Wuboku, so kind of rough. We could have potentially just attacked in with Stone, but I think going for the Raigeki was the right play there, just trying to go for lethal. They've got Fisher to clear the Stone. They'll set another, pass back to us. We draw Swords of Villain Light. We fire that. I think this was a little bit of a mistake, as they've used up Reborn, and they don't have really a good way of getting 2,600 damage in. So I think I could have saved the Swords there, and it would have been a little bit better. Would have also potentially flipped up a bug if they set that. So yeah, I think this was a bit of a misplay, but I want to stabilize my life points a little bit. And yeah, I think I might get punished for it here. We'll have to find out. We summon out a Lodgin. They've got Trap Hole for that, so that will clear that. They bring out a Battle Ox and pass back to us. And we got Trap Master here. We're going to set that Trap Master, pass back to them. And we're in a bit of a tough spot. So Swords will be gone here. But luckily, this should probably be the end of the game. We flip up Trap Master on the new one. It's just a Dark Hole. We fire a Change of Heart on the Battle Ox. And then we're just going to try and get in for lethal. If they've got another Wuboku, then this is the end of the game, as they've only used up 2. But luckily that last set is just a Reinforcement. So, we made some misplays in the end there, but we didn't get super punished for them. So, yeah, it worked out. And that can happen too. But it's always good to note the misplays, even in games where you win, because it just improves your play for the games that you're in a bit of a trickier spot. But yeah, that will indeed be the end of the game there. And we're going to go into game 3. Let's see. Or no, this is game. Well, it's game 4, but it's game 2 of the match. But anyways, they're going to set 3, pass back to us. We draw a trap hole, and again, we're in kind of a weird spot. This time we have just a bunch of back row, and we've only got 2 monsters, one of which we can't actually summon. So there is the argument just not to commit anything to board, just use your trap holes to clear any aggressive pressure that they have, and do that until we have more aggressive pressure in hand. But we're just going to go for the Lodge-in now, as normal summons are very important, and you want to be using up your 1 normal summon a turn as much as possible, if you don't already have Field Presence on board at least. And they're going to pop the Lodge-in there. We're going to set a Trap Hole, a Fisher, and a Waboku there, pass back to them. We could potentially held the trap hole in case they set trap masters later, but I feel like this is better. We want to use up the trap holes to clear away their monsters if we can. They're just going to bring out a Battle Ox here, and we let that go through because we got the Fisher to deal with the Battle Ox. But I think maybe saving the Fisher for like a reborn monster might be a little bit better because we do have 2 trap holes in hand. So, firing a trap hole isn't necessarily the worst here. We draw Pot of Greed. We do need to use that now as we don't really have any way to clear that Battle Ox. We bring out our Battle Ox here, fire Fisher on theirs, attack in for 1700. So main 2, we're just going to set those reinforcements. Now we have the full back row here, the full Yugi-Kaiba suite. They set 1, pass back to us. We draw Trap Master. We got to attack in to their set there. Unfortunately, is the Trap Master. This is another argument for using up the Trap Hole when you can, as Fisher will not die to a Trap Master there. So they hit a reinforcements though, so not the worst thing in the world because we do have the trap holes to protect our Battle Oxes here. We set a Trap Master, made this a little bit greedy, especially given that we don't really have any other monsters. But I want to get sniping their back row, because I don't want any monster that I draw off the top to die to like Trap Hole. Unfortunately, they do have Dark Hole there. We do just Trap Hole that Neo. It's the only removal we have in hand. We draw a Waboku, set this Trap Hole, pass back to them. It's all we can really do here. We Trap Hole their Lodge-in. Just, keep them off monsters here. And we could potentially hold this Man-Eater Bug until they have a monster on field, but we set it. We figure that they probably aren't going to blind Swords our set, and if they don't blind Swords, we could potentially just summon out Summon Skull. We draw another Waboku, which is kind of awkward. We think about this a little bit because, we could go for the Summon Skull here. And I do think that it might be correct to do that, but we see that they haven't used up any trap holes. So it might be a little bit awkward. And since we don't have aggressive pressure, if they do use Swords on our bug to pop that, it's not the worst thing in the world because it's not like, it's stopping us from attacking, right? So I do just pass here, made this a little bit greedy, and we do get punished for that. They do just, fire Swords, set 1, pass back to us. Now I figure that that set is either a bug or a Trap Master. Either way, I don't want to play into it, so we're just going to pass back to them. If it's a Trap Master and they flip it up, then we've got Waboku. If it's just a bug, then I feel fine about, just having it sit on their field. They go for the Trap Master, we fire this Waboku. They're going to draw 2 off Pot of Greed there, and they're just going to set 1 and pass back to us. Now I feel fine about setting this Giant Soldier of Stone here, so we will do that, setting another Waboku, pass back to them, and they're going to tribute out a Summon Skull there. They're going to hit in to our Giant Soldier Stone. We'll just let that go through. Not much we can really do there. Otherwise, we draw a Dark Hole, so that's pretty decent. We're going to hope that they commit another monster to board, so that we can use Waboku on the damage, then go for a Dark Hole. But it looks like they are playing this correctly. They just attack in for 2,500, pass back to us. We draw another Trap Master, so we're going to set that. Hopefully, this time they do commit another monster to board here, but they've just got Change of Heart here. So they'll flip up the Trap Master. We'll chain Waboku here because we kind of have to, and then they tribute out another Summon Skull. So I feel really good about this because we got this Dark Hole in hand. We'll clear away both those Summon Skulls, summon out this Battle Ox, and try attacking in for 1,700. So you just got to chip down their life points, get them to a relatively equal level. We're going to set this third Waboku in hand here, pass back to them. They've got a Battle Ox. They've got Reborn as well to clear our Battle Ox here. And we just fire Waboku, as this will be a fair amount of damage, and we also want to preserve our Battle Ox here to potentially go for the Summon Skull. We draw another Summon Skull, so yeah, I mean, we kind of have just 2 options here. We could set the Giant Soldier of Stone, maybe survive 1 more turn that way, but I don't really think that it's the best. If they've got Trap Hole anyways, we're probably dead here because whatever else we summon later to deal with this is going to die. So we just go for like the risky play. We summon that Summon Skull here, and they do indeed have the Trap Hole, so that will be the end of the game. But I think either way here, if we had potentially set the stone, then we would have lost both our monsters this upcoming turn. We could have used the Battle Ox to clear their Battle Ox, I guess. They had reinforcements, so that would not have happened. And they've got more monsters in hand anyways. So yeah, I think we were kind of dead here. Drawing double skull never really feels good in this format, I think. Maybe an argument to go for skulls earlier than I have been. I do think I'm a little bit conservative with the skulls, just holding on to them for a while. And that could potentially be biting me in the butt. But, I did what I think I had to do there. And, yeah, we're going to go into game 3. And hopefully this one worked out a little bit better for us. I think in playing these games, you got to sort of figure out how exactly to play given a variety of hands. And I think that is a very important skill to learn here. We're just going to open up with a Pot of Greed. Now, I have seen some people just setting Pot of Greed as a bluff early on. I think that is a fair thing to do, especially if you've got a pretty decent hand here. I think we do have a pretty decent hand. But like, we don't really have a good starter here. We could summon out Battleox, set Woboku, but that's very vulnerable to like them summoning out Lodge In and attacking in that way. So I don't necessarily want to do that. We could also use swords right away, but that is also kind of awkward. So what I want to do is I want to draw into a better starter or a trap hole or something like that, and I do indeed draw into this Lodge In. So now we set a swords and a Woboku here. Swords is a really good bluff in this format because if your opponent has D-Spell, like the only really punish to someone missing on Trap Master and hitting like a spell is if they've also got D-Spell to then pop that spell, but swords would normally just be popped by D-Spell anyways, so it's a really, really good bluff in this format. They're going to bring out a Lodge In here. Set 3, pass back to us. That really telegraphs that they've got like a reinforcements here. So we're just going to bring out this Battleox, fisher away their monster, and attack in for 35. Now we can sort of play around the reinforcements in the future if we so wish. And we're just going to pass back to them. They're going to bring out another Lodge In, attack into our Battleox here. And we're just going to take that. We could potentially have Woboku there, try and go for game next turn with Change of Heart. But we can kind of do that anyways. We draw Raigeki as well, so we are feeling very good about this. We can just get super aggressive. They do have Woboku there to stop that. We're just going to tribute out a Summon Skull here. They do have the trap hole for that, but this is honestly perfectly fine. We've got Raigeki in hand. We've got Swords and Woboku if things do turn against us. So I feel like this is very good. They're just going to summon out a Battleox here, attack into Lodge In. Now, they only really do this if they've got like a reinforcement. So we're just going to fire the Woboku, force them to either lose the Battleox or the reinforcements here. And they're going to choose to lose the Battleox. They're just going to set 1, pass back to us. We draw another Trap Master here, attack in for 1800. Dropping them down even further. And then main 2, we're just going to set this Trap Master here. Go for his swords because we do know about the reinforcements and we don't want them to like summon another Battleox, hit over our Lodge In before we flip up Trap Master, popping their reinforcements. Maybe a little bit greedy again because, we're not in a super bad spot. But they've got D-Spell anyway, so it doesn't really matter there. They're going to summon out a Neo here, attack in. They accidentally misclick and add the reinforcement back to hand. Doesn't matter. I knew what that was, so that is perfectly fine. They're going to set another, and I feel very good about this. We're just going to flip up Trap Master there. It's Change of Heart, so I feel fine about that. We can just summon out Neo, crash into their Neo, and then attack directly with Trap Master. A little bit awkward. We could have also just Raigeki'd the Neo and gotten in for 2200. Put them on a very, very tight clock. But then we lose the only removal we have in hand. And I feel like we've already got them on a bit of a clock. So I feel fine about this. We draw another Battleox, so this will just be the end of the game because we know exactly what they've got. We're just going to fire Raigeki here and just go in for 2200 damage. And that will indeed be the end of the game here. So very, very sick games. I do think that some of the matches that I've shown off here do show that, the format is not immune to bad draws or good draws. Like, that will happen in pretty much every Yu-Gi-Oh! Format that you come across. But I do think that, like, sort of talking through the potential misplays that I mentioned, it does show that, like, oftentimes you can sort of play a given hand in a given way to sort of help out your situation quite a bit. And, no hand is a complete loss. No hand is a complete win. And it just comes down to really, really good technical play. But we had one more match here, the tiebreaker match. We had to see who would win the best of 3 here. So let's just dive into that now. Okay, we've got our last match against LA Tin Can for this video here. And it's a pretty exciting one as well. Just a reminder at this point, if you've been enjoying this sort of gameplay, enjoying this sort of content, then definitely give the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers. We're just 3 away at the last time I checked. So it'd be really, really cool if we reach 1,000 in the next week. So your subscribing can make that happen. Opponent's just going to open up with the classic T-set pass. We're going to go for a Pot of Greed here. I think maybe this was a bit of a greedy pot of greed. We could have potentially set this as a bluff. Because we got a move here. We can just summon out Lodge and attack into their set if we so choose. But I think I wanted to sort of inform myself on like what I was drawing later to sort of, construct my play around it. But yeah, I don't really think this was super necessary. We're just going to bring out Lodge and attack into the set. It was probably either Giant Soldier Stone or Bug. You wouldn't really set Trap Master on a board where your opponent doesn't have any back row. So we're just going to set a D-Spell and a Trap Hole as bluffs there. And yeah, they're just going to pass back to us. We've got Raigeki, so we could use it. But we're just going to go for this Bug here instead. Now, this might have been a bit of a greedy play here. This does telegraph that it is a Bug. But I figure the only things that super punish this are like Change of Heart or like Raigeki. Dark Hole will also punish this a little bit, but they're going 2 for 2. So honestly, I'm fine with that trade. They're going to bring out a Battle Ox here. We're just going to Trap Hole that. Although I don't necessarily think I need to Trap Hole this. I could have just set a Giant Soldier of Stone instead. Walled up for a little bit. We would have taken some damage in the short term. But it might have been better than just using the Trap Hole on something that, we want to generally save like Trap Hole for like Lodgins or Skulls, not necessarily Battle Oxes. So, a bit awkward. We're just going to bring out this Giant Soldier Stone, attack in for 13. We do have this Wuboku here to protect it, which is why we're doing this. And also we've got Fisher as well to clear whatever monster they bring out. They're going to bring out a Battle Ox here. They're going to attack into this stone. We choose not to Wuboku this, as again, as I mentioned before, we can just wall up with another stone in hand, and we draw a third stone, so even better. We're going to set that stone, pass back to them. They're just going to attack in with the Battle Ox here, take 300, and then they're going to pass another and pass back to us. We draw another mass board clear, which is very, very nice to have both at our disposal, but in this board state, it's a little bit awkward. We draw another Man-Eater Bug here, set that Man-Eater Bug, pass back to them, and they're going to just attack into our set. It's the Bug, so we'll be able to pop their Battle Ox there. Main 2, they're just going to bring out a Neo, pass back to us, and we draw a Reinforcement, so that can protect our Giant Soldier Stone a little bit here if we choose to switch it to attack later. They're going to Fisher our Stone, attack in for 17, and we'll just let that go through. Then they're just going to pass back to us. We draw a Wuboku here. We're just going to set this stone because, again, this sort of walls things up a little bit. They're going to attack in with the Neo. They will take another 300, pass back to us. We draw a Summon Skull of our own, so we could potentially tribute summon that out, attack over the Neo, but that does play a little bit risky into Trap Hole, so we don't necessarily want to do that now. They've got another Fisher. They'll clear the stone, attack in for another 17, pass back to us, and we draw a Battle Ox, which is really, really nice. We'll bring that out. We'll use up this Fisher that's on field here, saving the Dark Hole and the Raigeki for later, and we'll attack in for 17. We could have potentially used the Dark Hole there instead and just tried to sit on the Battle Ox, because we do have Wuboku to protect it. We've got another Wuboku in hand, so it wouldn't be the worst to use our Wuboku to protect it, and Fisher would then allow us to get through something like Lodge-In, for instance. But we played it this way. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to do. And they're just going to summon out Lodge-In, set one, pass back to us. It looks like they're afraid of something like Reinforcements here. We're going to think about this a bit, and we're going to choose to just set a Swords, pass back to them. We do have one Reinforcements. What we could have done here instead is just gone for the Summoned Skull, tried hitting over the Lodge-In that way. It would have played into something like Trap Hole, but we do have the Swords to protect ourselves if they do have Trap Hole. So I think, honestly, the Skull play would have been a little bit better. But again, I've been playing a bit too conservatively with the Skulls. I also have the read that they don't really have too many Reinforcements because they didn't use any to get over our stones. But unfortunately, they do have one, and that is enough there. So they'll hit over our Battle Ox here. We're just going to fire Swords here, pass back to them. They're going to pass back to us. We draw a Bug, so that's really good here. We can set that, pass back to them. We can flip up the Bug, tribute out a Skull, and feel pretty good about that. They're just going to set one more, pass back to us. We draw a Battle Ox, which is pretty nice. We're going to flip up the Bug, pop the Skull, or not the Skull, the Lodge-In. Then we're going to bring out a Battle Ox instead of going for the Skull. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I think maybe going for the Skull would have been a little bit better here. As if they got Trap Hole's probably going to get used on the Skull later on anyways. And again, Skull is not always online, whereas Battle Ox always will be. So I think this was a bit of a misplay. But it may, turn out to be fine in the end. We're in a pretty good position here. We're very resilient to a lot of different things, and we can get really aggressive here. We're going to Raigeki their set. It's just a Giant Soldier Stone. We'll attack in for 2150. They do just use Wuboku there in case we've got like reinforcements, so we're just going to switch our Bug to defense, pass back to them. They've got a Lodge-In here. They'll be able to hit over our Battle Ox. We will just Wuboku that, as we can just summon out Summon Skull and attack in next turn. Unfortunately, they do have swords here, so that will prevent us from going super all in there. And they're going to reborn a Giant Soldier Stone just in case. We draw a Trap Master here. We're just going to tribute out the skull just to try to bait out a trap hole, and that does indeed go through. But we also did have this dispel here in case, they didn't have that trap hole. So we're just going to fire a sword of our own, pass back to them. We've got this dispel in case we ever do want to go aggressive here. They're just going to set one, pass back to us. Could be a good time to dark hole relatively soon, but instead I'm just going to set another bluff. We've only got one trap here, so if they snipe that with the trap master, then they're just very, very good at the game. And they do not indeed snipe it with the trap master. They're just going to tribute out the summon skull here, fire a dispel on our swords, and this can allow them to get really aggressive here, getting in for 2,600. We could potentially take that and then just go for the dark hole next turn. I think maybe that would have been the right play to do, as that way our dark hole is just trading 1 for 3. But I just go for the Wuboku here instead, and it makes our dark hole a little bit awkward here. We are just going to fire the dark hole now. So I think the Wuboku there was a bit wasted, but we do have this other Wuboku in hand. We got trap hole to deal with whatever other monster they might summon out. They're just going to set one, pass back to us. We draw a monster reborn here. No need to use it yet. We're just going to set a trap master of our own here. They're going to flip up trap master, hit the trap hole there, fire a change of heart on our trap master, get to snipe another card. It's just a Fisher though. That's not the worst. They're just going to bring out a summon skull there, attack in for 3k, and we're in a bit of a tough spot here. They're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw a reinforcements, not the best on this board, but what we can do is we can bring out a summon skull here and then attack in to their trap master there for 2,000. So this will drop them down to 250, and then reinforcements can potentially win the game later. We go for a dispel on their set in case it's a bluff that can actually clear our skull, because we really do want to protect this skull. But I think this was maybe a little bit of a mistake, as if they've got swords, then that can stall us for quite some time. And unfortunately, they do indeed have swords here. So they're going to fire swords, set one, pass back to us. And we're in a really, really tough spot now. We draw another skull, which won't quite help us here. If we had saved our dispel, we could have dispelled their swords, attacked in here. But unfortunately, we do not have that. They're going to bring out a Neo, flip up a bug, popping our skull. And they're going to get in for nothing because we got Wuboku here. So we have to fire that to stay alive. We draw a Battle Ox here. And if we had our dispel, we could have dispelled the swords, summoned up Battle Ox, hit in to the Man-Eater bug. But yeah, nothing we can really do there. We just got to set the Battle Ox to stay alive. They're going to bring out a Lodgin, and that will indeed be the end of the game there. So I think if I had played that a little bit differently, maybe had gotten a bit less greedy with the dispel, we could have potentially still been in that. But we would have had to summon the Battle Ox into the trap hole either way, and they probably would have cleared it that way. So it would probably not have worked out the best for us either way there. Although it's hard to really tell in cases like that. But very, very close game, very, very intense one. And we are going to go into game 2 here. Hopefully we can acquit ourselves a little bit better there. So going into game 2, we will be going first here. And this is a pretty great hand. Also, not much traps for Trap Master to snipe, so that's pretty good as well. I think, honestly, going for the Pot of Greed here was a bit of a misplay, as I've got this Giant Soldier Stone. That's a great starting play. I don't need the Pot of Greed yet. And they're not going to blind dispel a back row here. So it's just sort of masking how many resources we actually have. But they're going to go for swords, summon out a Battle Ox, Fisher away our stone, and attack in for 1,700. That's perfectly fine by me. That's a bit of an aggressive push there. So I think it's, works out for us overall. We draw the third Fisher, so that is very, very funny. But, this means that we do have our Fishers as constant removal over the course of the game. So I feel like this is, not the worst spot to be in. They're going to attack into our bug. We're going to pop their Lodge in there. They're going to set another pass back to us. We only have one trap here, which is the reinforcements closest to the deck. We're going to set a Trap Master as well as a bit of a bluff, as, we figure if they flip up a Trap Master, hit one of our non-trap cards, then, they've revealed a card that is basically one of our bluffs. If they then attack into our Trap Master here, then, I can just reveal the same bluff. And it's not really the worst for us. The real bad thing is if they flip up Trap Master, hit our live trap, and then hit into our Trap Master, and we have to reveal a bluff. But again, I don't really think that's the worst. They do hit our live trap, though, and so we do have to reveal a bluff. Luckily, we are going to be using that bluff next turn anyways, so yeah, that was kind of the worst case scenario for us, but I think in general it would have been fine if they choose not to aggressive with the Trap Master. Then we had the Summon Skull for the Trap Master there to tribute over it and get aggressive that way. But yeah, we just fire the Fisher here, and then we're going to set a Trap Master of our own, set another Fisher as bluff, and pass back to them. We use up the Fisher instead of just going for Bug to pop the skull, because they knew about the Fisher anyways, so we might as well use what they know, and just have more unknowns in the game. They're going to bring out a Neo, fire a Monster Reborn here to bring back a skull, and they're going to hit the Trap Master here. We're going to snipe a Waboku, honestly a pretty good hit. They're going to hit in for another 17, pass back to us. We draw a Reborn, so we could potentially go for like, oh, I guess there's not really anything to really go for here. So we'll probably save the Reborn for later. We're going to Fisher away that Neo, set a Bug here. We don't want them to get too aggressive here. But they've got Raigeki, and that is exactly why we fishered away the Neo. Because they had Raigeki the Bug and then attacked in for 25 plus 17. If they had a reinforcement, that would just be the end of the game there. But luckily, we didn't give them that option. We're just going to bring out a Lodgin. They've got Trap Hole. We do have the Fisher here. We're going to Reborn their Summon Skull there. No Wall of Illusions in the deck, so no need to worry about this going back to their hand. They're just going to set one, pass back to us. We are in a pretty good spot here. We're just going to keep attacking in for 25. And now we just have to set a Giant Soldier Stone. The reason we do this is if they've got Change of Heart, we just lose the game if we leave a singular skull out. We lost the game last turn if that happened anyways, but I figured that I had to go for this because I just had to get aggressive while I could. And if they draw Change of Heart at any point, we're kind of losing with the Reborn play anyways. So I feel like this is fine. They're just going to bring out a Neo here, attack into the Summon Skull, use up 2 reinforcements to clear that, and they're just going to pass back to us. Now we could just go for a Summon Skull here and hit over the Neo. That does lose to the Change of Heart play, as I mentioned, and I think that's ultimately fine just going for the Bug play instead, as if they don't draw like a back row, then we can Bug, pop one of their cards, tribute over the Bug, and then go for something that way. But they're just going to attack in to both of our monsters here, so we won't be able to tribute the Bug, unfortunately, but we will be able to pop the Lodge in there. And the Stone will survive. Now, what we could do here is we could just summon out the Neo, crash into their Neo, and maybe switch Soldiers of Stone to attack and attack in for 1300. But if they draw a Beater off the top, then that's really bad because they cleared the Stone, our Skull's dead in hand, and that's just the end of the game. So we are just going to go for the Skull. I figure it's more likely to draw into a Beater than drawing into a Change of Heart. So we just have to get aggressive here. And, you know, if they draw it, they draw it. So they're going to set one and pass back to us. I feel really good about this. No need to commit the Neo on board, but we will anyways, because why not? And we're just going to attack in for 25 there. I guess the reason to commit the Neo on board is if they get changed, but you'd want to commit it like in main phase 2, like you'd want to set it in case they had like Waboku, but I think it was fine there either way. It didn't really end up mattering there. It was just a minor sort of misplay at the end. But we were able to win that one by the skin of our teeth. So very, very fun to see. We're going to game 3 of the 3rd match here. Winner take all. I don't know what we're taking, but, you know, I guess bragging rights maybe. But we are going to go into the 3rd game here and see how it goes. Opponent is going to open up with a L set pass, and we've got kind of a defensive hand. Now, it's awkward if their set is like a Bug. So there is potentially a reason to go for Change of Heart here on their set. As we could get really punished if their set is a Bug. But if we use Change of Heart and it's a Stone, then that's kind of awkward. We do get to get in for 13, so that's not bad. But yeah, it's kind of rough. We just set this Trap Master here, set Fisher, set Change of Heart, set Trap Hole, pass back to them. If they've got Bug, and they pop our set. But I think that of the 3 sets in hand, like Trap Master is the one we're most okay losing. And they bring out Neo, and unfortunately is indeed the Bug. So maybe the Change of Heart play would have been the best here either way. Change of Heart would have also flipped up their monster for a Fisher play later, so if it was Stone, then we could Fisher it. So it might have just been the best play overall. I don't know. It's kind of an awkward play. You want to save Change of Heart for later most of the time. We're just going to set a Giant Soldier of Stone here, pass back to them. We could have gone for the Battle Ox, hit over the Bug, getting damage that way. But if they got Trap Hole, that really punishes us. So, yeah, I don't really think it was worth doing that. They're just going to hit in to the Stone, and they're going to switch the Bug to defense, set one, pass back to us. And now we can potentially get aggressive with the Battle Ox. Unfortunately, they do have Trap Hole with that, so we won't be able to clear the Bug and make our Fisher alive. This is a potential reason why we should have, like, Trap Holed the Neo, just in case. But, yeah, it's a bit awkward doing that, so I don't really think it was the worst thing to hold the Trap Hole here. We draw a Waboku. We do get a little bit greedy, set a Bug here. The way I figure it is if they, you know, attacking the Bug, we clear the Neo. We can use the Trap Hole and whatever else they summon out. Get aggressive with the Stone. We got Swords. We got Waboku to protect the Stone. And we just kind of need to be getting aggressive here, like start picking apart their board a little bit. But this does really telegraph the set is like a bug or a trap master, something that, you know, if they've got change of heart, it might be good change of hearting here. Unfortunately, they do indeed have the change of heart, so they will be able to flip up the bug, pop our stone, and get in for a ton of damage. And this is a really, really bad position to be in. We can potentially crash the bug if it survives, but swords will prevent us from doing that. So yeah, this is really awkward here. We've got to fire the swords to just stay alive at this point. So we can't set our reinforcements. Not that it's really doing anything for us here anyways. But yeah, this is a really tough spot. They summon out Neo. We just let that go. We could have trap hold it potentially here. But we figure if they've got Dispel, they've got Dispel anyways. And we do potentially have ways to clear the Neo. But I think honestly trap holding would have been the best move there. So we draw trap hole, so it's not really going to do anything here. We just got to make a really suboptimal play, change of hearting the man-eater bug, and then firing Fisher on one of the Neos, setting our 2 back row, passing back to them. And we're not quite dead here. We do have trap hole to clear whatever other monster they might summon out. But yeah, we're almost dead. They bring out Summon Skull. We fire the trap hole here. They attack over our bug. And we're in really dire straits. They're going to set 1 pass back to us. We draw Wabokus. They'll keep us alive for a little bit longer. But yeah, not really much we can do here. They bring out a Battle Axe. We will use the trap hole on that. They'll attack in for 17. Dropping us down to 1550. They've got another swords. And Bug will stabilize us a little bit, but it's still pretty rough to be in. They've got Raigeki to clear the bug as well. Attack in for 17. We got to use Waboku there to stay alive. All we've got is reinforcements and a dream. And we draw a Fisher. So Fisher will be able to clear the Neo, but it's very likely they have another monster in hand to finish us off here. Reborn will indeed do it. Bring back the Summon Skull. And that will indeed be the end of the game. So I think in this last game, there were a couple different points where we messed up. I think using the trap hole on the second Neo that was brought out would have been pretty good. Maybe even on the first Neo would have been pretty good. I think maybe we should have just gone for our gut play of change of hearting their set on turn 1. I really did contemplate it for a while in the game, but I just decided it would be too sort of risky and too aggressive. But I think it would have really helped us out a bit. Like then Trapmaster could have potentially sniped something for us. We could have potentially gotten a little bit more aggressive here. But yeah, we didn't really have much aggressive pressure overall this game, unfortunately. No beaters drawn. But, you know, again, as I mentioned, you got to sort of play the games as the hands dictate. And I think this hand dictated that, you know, we had to use what we could to clear their board, and Change of Heart was that on turn 1. But let me know what you think about these games down in the comments below. I highly encourage you, if you sort of played Yugi-Kaiba but are a bit tired of the modern metagame of Yugi-Kaiba, to go back and play this sort of Yugi-Kaiba Detox. It's really, really fun. Also, if you've never played Yugi-Kaiba at all and are just, looking for this sort of more classic caveman era Yu-Gi-Oh, this is probably the best way you can do it, the most pure way to do it. And I think it's really, really fun. So I highly encourage everyone to try it out. But, I hope that you all enjoyed this video as always. And until next time, I've been Ben from Wajo from Zero, and I'm signing off.